if I do not have my coffee in the morning, I am not functioning.
Why can't you function without coffee? That is a sign something is terribly wrong.
Is Wagyu a psyop?
There is no way I would eat that diseased meat. That animal is very sick. To get the fat into the muscle like that, that takes a diseasing of the animal. You can eat junk out of a gas station, and then you can eat paleo and you can feel better, a lot better. Then you can go to eating primal and you can feel like you've never felt before.
Could the fat on American meat be making us sick? Could eating fruit secretly be packing on pounds for the average American woman? What's the deal with non-diabetics wearing glucose monitors? And could coffee be wrecking your sex drive? This is one of the most fun and electric interviews I've ever done. Of course, I have to be saying that because the guest is none other than Candi Frazier, aka the Primal Bod on Instagram. Known for her blunt, hilarious, and completely brutal takedowns of health scoops, wellness trends, and nutrition advice, Candi is a board-certified functional nutrition therapist and holistic nutritionist who's built a devoted following by exposing the ugly truth behind our modern diets. She's coached over 6,000 clients, helped women lose up to 20 pounds in 6 weeks, and is the voice behind the viral mantra that insulin is the master fat-storing hormone. Shout out to my friends at Yrify for letting us film in their studio today. Watch Candi and I on the Real Alex Clark YouTube channel or Culture Apothecary on Spotify. Pause and leave a 5-star review for us real quick before we get started. This show is free, and your reviews help it stay that way. Please welcome the Primal Bod, Candi Frazier, to Culture Apothecary. You call carrots clown food and also claim they can abort pregnancy. Besides being the funniest thing, I've ever heard, do you really have evidence for that?
They had evidence for that, it is in all the traditional herbal books that Queen Anne's lace can prevent pregnancy. So therefore, they don't really know because they couldn't track a fetus back then to know if it could cause abortion. But if it is strong enough to be used as a contraception, you really don't want to ingest Queen Anne's lace if you think you might be pregnant. Why would you do that? If it can prevent pregnancy, why wouldn't it be able to abort a fetus?
What constitutes as clown food?
Clown food. Yeah, that's the little term I coined way back when my members had, started talking about, the vegetables and the plants. And I said, listen, you guys, these aren't real. It's like circus food. Look at them in the grocery store. And then I started showing them pictures of selectively bred plants. And I'm like, this is the wild version of the banana. This is what the wild banana looks like. Now look at the banana today in the grocery store. See how different it is. See how obscure it looks. You can't find that kind of shape, that color in true nature in the wild. It doesn't exist. It exists in the circus. So that's why I coined it clown food, because it looks like clown food. Once you immerse yourself in the wild and you look around at the vegetation and the plants, if you saw one of those bananas growing in a wild forest in Costa Rica, you'd be like, what the heck is that? Wild bananas blend in with their environment. Most plants want to blend in. It's their defense mechanism. When you look out into a vast jungle, nothing really grabs your eye in a wild jungle.
That's true.
And it's meant to be that way. Nature has designed itself to blend everything to blend in.
Why is that? Is this GMOs? Why does the fruit in a grocery store in America look different than in the wild?
They've been selectively bred. So about 13,000 years ago, agriculture came on the scene. A little bit prior to that, they started selectively breeding plants. This has been going on for a long time. We were hunters. We started out as hunters primarily. And yeah, could we go forage some things in the forest? Definitely. I'm sure that the hunter-gatherers were eating some nuts or eating some, of the vegetation that was around, but it was a minuscule amount. I believe, and I think there are others that believe the way that I do, most of the selective breeding started when people discovered fermentation. And they discovered they could take more carbohydrate, and they could turn it into alcohol, ethanol. So, for example, wheat, right? Wheat was made into beer. And so they knew that if they could grow the crop to contain more carbohydrate, more sugar, that sugar would then break down to better ethanol, more ethanol. So they'd have a stronger alcohol. So I believe that is where it all kind of started, and then it bled out from there. But if you get on YouTube and you just type in selectively bred plants, you can hear the history of how they do it and how they cross-pollinate and how they breed the plants to develop these specific traits. But what ends up happening is these plants really don't do well out in the world, in the wild. They get eaten alive by mold and fungus and bugs. So they need to have humans help support their life and their growth. So that's another reason I call it clown food, is because it's not real. It's not what the wild truly is. The thing that I like to tell my girls is, if you watch any of the Naked and Afraid shows, have you seen that show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you watch those shows, you'll see the first thing those people do is they try to go hunt. That's their like primal instinct, is like, I got to go hunt, because they look around and they know there's no vegetation for them to eat. And even if there was, how are they going to know what it is?
Right. Yeah.
How are they going to know what's going to be safe for them to ingest or kill them, or give them the shits? They don't know. So they're, of course, like, I'm going to try to hunt. And so that's the first thing they do. They try to go hunt for meat, because they know that's intuitively, when we're put into the wild, something comes out of us that makes us do the thing we're supposed to do instinctually, which is hunt. It's a big part of our life that's missing.
Carnivores will tell you got to eat all of the parts of meat. You got to eat the fat. You are super against eating the fat on American meat. Why?
Well, I'm not. It's not that I'm super against it. I would say that I think there's a time and a place for it. Now, do I go to a nice, grass-fed steakhouse and they have like marrow there? Will I eat it? Yes, I will. Will I eat a ribeye on occasion? Yes, I will. But it's not beneficial for our bodies the way that most people think it is. I know there's a lot of misconceptions about fat because of the keto diet, and people think, well, if I eat more fat, I'll get into ketosis easier, therefore I'll be healthier, right? And that's just not the case. I found that to be actually the exact opposite. And I'll tell you that story when I talk about Tom and what I discovered with insulin in a minute. Animals that are raised in farms now today are also selectively bred. They have been selectively bred and chosen for their traits. And so it was, important for people to have cattle that lived in cold temperatures. So those cattle were selectively bred to live in cold temperatures. But what happened is those animals started producing more fat on their body. And then they got away from the cows eating their natural diet, which doesn't really fatten them up, grass, to eating corn. So now you have selectively bred cows that are grown or raised and bred to be in colder environments. And those cows are now eating corn and soy and grains, and they're producing this highly inflammatory omega-6 fat on their body. That fat is destroying our health. It's a really bad fat. People are getting way too much of it. It's the seed oils. But these animals have that fat on their body now, and we eat that fat. So if you're eating a grass-fed ribeye, that's fine. Nothing of that is going to hurt you. And our ancestors did eat the whole animal, and they did eat fat. But wild animals are lean.
Yeah, and you also have pointed out, if you look at a steak cut in the UK, for example, versus a steak that you pick up at an American supermarket, the fat on the steak, completely different. There's hardly any fat on these European steaks because they're not feeding all of their animals corn.
Right, exactly. These grass-fed animals don't get fat because they're eating their species-specific diet, which doesn't allow them to get fat. Corn will make you fat, girls. Even the corn chips will make you fat. It's making the cows fat, and it's making everybody else fat. Corn fattens people up. That's why pop has made our country obese, soda, because it's all corn syrup. right? So yeah, it's having an effect on our animals. We're eating those animals and it's affecting us later down the road, but it's not the wild meat. Wild game, bison, venison, elk, all of that is lean. And you go to the cows, like you said, in Europe, the cows down in Costa Rica or Brazil that just graze on the grass. I mean, they don't feed them corn. They don't feed them anything like that. They're so lean, and the fat doesn't taste very good, actually. You know, you come here and you eat that big, thick, fatty cut of meat, and it just melts in your mouth and it's delicious and salty. And you go down to Costa Rica and you get one of their big ribeyes. It has hardly any fat on it. And the fat is so tied to the connective tissue that you just have to chew and chew and chew if you want to break it down.
Is fruit healthy?
No, I do not believe fruit is healthy. I believe that wild fruits and wild berries can be fun to eat. But I don't think I think everybody puts a lot of emphasis on, because it grows in nature and it's not processed in a box, that means it's healthy. And that's just not the case. And I learned that by watching my husband Tom's blood sugar. I learned that the fruit smoothie I was feeding him that had frozen mango and frozen, strawberries and almond butter and, all the stupid superfoods in it, protein powder. If I fed him that smoothie, his blood sugar would go just as high as if I gave him a bowl of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. The same amount. It would do the same thing to his blood sugar. And when I saw that, I went, well, what do you mean? The fiber doesn't cut down on the blood sugar spike? And he's like, no, it's all the same. And it'd take him forever to get it down. And so I learned quickly that these foods that we think are real, because I used to eat paleo. I told all my clients to eat paleo, and I would make these cute little paleo desserts, Alex. They'd have dates and nuts and all the superfoods in them, and they were so cute. And my blood sugar was a disaster, and I had no idea. And I was feeding him to Tom, and his blood sugar was a disaster. And I'm like, we might as well be eating Snickers bars right now.
So is fruit making Americans fat?
Yes.
How?
Look around. Fructose, for one thing, all fruit breaks down to sugar, but then it also breaks down to fructose, which creates a lot of visceral fat. So fructose is really hard on the liver. The liver has a hard time processing it, but it also creates a lot of internal fat. So you see a lot of the vegans or a lot of the girls that are like these raw fruity girls, and they're like walking around and they seem like they're really thin, but what they don't know is they're loaded with fat inside. All their organs are suffocating in fat.
What?
Yes. You need to have Dr. Sean O'Mara on your show. He's a very dear friend of mine. He's the leading researcher in visceral fat. And what he has found is almost everyone has it, but the vegans, the fruitarians, the people that eat a lot of carbs, those people have it the worst. And when you have visceral fat, you have fat suffocating your heart. And then you have fat in your muscles. It's called myosteatosis. And this is what a lot of those bodybuilders get. They get myosteatosis, especially when they inject insulin into their muscles. So they think they have these big muscles, but all they're doing is they have these inflated muscles that are loaded with glycogen, that are marbleized with fat, like Wagyu beef, and they're loaded with visceral fat. And their skin gets really pocky. They get blackheads. They get this waxy appearance in their face and their skin, and you see it, and you just know right away. It's an indication that they're loaded with visceral fat and fat in their muscles. And, the girls that drink all the smoothies and eat all the fruit.
Yeah, you're freaking me out.
Yeah.
Every morning I make this major protein smoothie. Mm-hmm. This is what I put in it. I do 2 different scoops of protein powder, 40 grams of protein. I have a huge extra large avocado I put in there. I do collagen powder, creatine, colostrum. This Body Bio PC stuff sops up glyphosate in your body, and I don't know what that does. Helping
like a chelator. Yeah.
I have bee pollen, lime juice, frozen pineapple, frozen peaches, frozen strawberries, frozen cherries.
Woo, girl.
Water, aloe vera juice, camu powder, and I think,
Dang.
and a little bit of pumpkin pie spice.
Okay.
So, thoughts.
Eat a steak, girl. Eat a steak.
What? This has helped me feel so good. It's like been the best, easiest way for me to get protein in the morning.
Yes, but you're number one, Alex, and you have a big mission. So you have to put yourself first. And that doesn't mean cramming a bunch of shit in a smoothie and turning it on, right? Our ancestors didn't eat that.
I know they didn't.
They didn't. And the other thing that I want you to know is you don't know how bad you feel until you feel really good.
Yeah.
You can eat junk out of a gas station, and then you can eat paleo and you can feel better, a lot better, right? Then you can go to eating primal and you can feel like you've never felt before.
So what does that mean, eating primal? Like, what does your breakfast look like?
Well, we had breakfast at a restaurant this morning. On the menu, fortunately, they had ground beef patties as a side that you could get. So I got 2 ground beef patties as a side. I had 4 eggs and a little slice of avocado. That's what I ate for breakfast.
Every woman I know says, Alex, I eat 2 eggs for breakfast in the morning. I'm getting my protein. I've got that under control.
That's so not enough.
So 2 eggs for breakfast for a woman is not enough protein.
Absolutely not. Oh my gosh, no, not even close.
So how many eggs? You had 4 eggs. Do we have to have at least 4 eggs to get enough protein as a
Well,
woman?
I had 4 eggs and 2 probably 8-ounce beef patties.
I feel like that's like 50 grams of protein right there in a breakfast.
Oh, no, that was 100 and something grams of protein, I bet. That was close to 100 grams of protein.
What are you aiming for on a day-to-day basis?
My lifestyle's a little different. I eat 5 days a week and then I fast 2 days a week. So I do a 48-hour fast every week.
Why?
Because it's so health promoting. So did you know that women at the 48-hour mark of no food, their human growth hormone goes through the roof. It goes so high. Then after 48 hours, it starts dropping off.
What is human growth hormone? Why is that important?
That's your anti-aging fountain of youth, girlfriend. You want to have good levels of human growth hormone. You have good levels of human growth hormone.
Why didn't anybody tell Hillary Clinton this? She could have just avoided.
Oh, I know.
She could have just been fasting.
Yeah, she could have. I think everybody needs to do fasting.
Listen, you can hate me if you want, but I like nice things. I like feeling pampered and pretty. I like the princess treatment. I like spa days. I like staycations, a good robe, and an overpriced face mask. Sue me. But I really love when I can get that same luxury girl energy for way less in something as simple as just a drink. That is what an iced chai does for me. It is my little reset moment, either in the morning or at the very end of my day as a little dessert drink, and Taylor Duke's Wellness just nailed it. Their new chai tea latte mix is everything I've been looking for. No added sugar, no dairy, and none of the junk that normally ruins a good chai. Just clean, cozy spices and creamy comfort that's ready in seconds, organic. Oh, it's so good. So I pour it over ice. I do like half of that. And then I do a splash of raw milk. I sprinkle some Ceylon cinnamon on top. That's the cleanest type of cinnamon you can buy at the store. And suddenly I am sipping my way back to sanity. I have been drinking it on repeat. I used to do it all the time. Then I kind of stopped because it was like 35 grams of sugar in the one that I was buying at the store. And I just was like, this is terrible to start my day with. I got to give it a break. So I've started doing my smoothies, which I'm still doing, but I like to sprinkle in an iced chai now as a snack. You can try it with my code AlexClark at TaylorDukesWellness.com. That's TaylorDukesWellness.com, code Clark for 10% off. Our kids are in the midst of a health crisis, and the medical system isn't talking about it. What we've been told is normal isn't. Their faces are shrinking, jaws are narrowing, and as a result, mouth breathing is exploding. It's silently stealing their health. Mouth breathing isn't harmless. It is linked to poor sleep, snoring, bedwetting, ADHD symptoms, chronic congestion, teeth grinding, and more. If your child shows any of these signs, consider it a red flag, and you've got to correct it right away. That is why airway dentist Dr. Ben Maraglia and Dr. Callie Hale and Dr. Kevin Goles founded Tooth Pillow, a revolutionary virtual dental program that addresses the root cause of airway and developmental issues in kids. Tooth Pillow doesn't just band-aid symptoms. It corrects jaw growth, improves tongue posture, and teaches nasal breathing, supporting better sleep, behavior, and overall health. Here's how it works. A licensed airway dentist guides you through a virtual assessment. If your child qualifies, they receive a custom guidance appliance and myofunctional therapy, plus nasal hygiene tools, all supported with monthly check-ins in the Tooth Pillow app. Guys, this is incredible. Tooth Pillow has helped thousands of families preemptively fix airway issues without the need for braces, surgery, or CPAP. Use code AlexClark for a free video assessment today. Go to toothpillow.com, click Is My Child a Candidate? Take the first step toward better breathing, sleep, and development. Okay, so your human growth hormone is spiking, and then, I mean, how in the world are you going 2 days?
Easily. When you become fat adapted and you get into ketosis and you burn ketones and glucose at the same time, you can go 2 days, no problem without food. Now, do you get hungry? Usually I only get hungry if Tom starts cooking food well. When I smell food, that's when I get hungry during a fast.
How long have you been doing this, 2 days a week, no eating?
We've been doing it now for a year.
And you're seeing good benefits.
Love it. This is what I adopted when Dr. Sean O'Mara became my doctor, because I was only doing one 24-hour fast a week. And then I switched to 48s because that's what he does, 72 hours every week. And I switched to 48s because I saw that it was so beneficial with all the hormone regulation. And also, you're encouraging cellular autophagy, you're getting the human growth hormone turned on, you're getting into deeper levels of ketosis where you can burn through the visceral fat that you have. I mean, there's all these wonderful benefits of getting in a fast, but the way it made me feel and the transformation I had in my body, I went, okay, I don't care what the studies say it does. I look and feel the best I ever have. This is a lifetime thing for me.
Okay, so going back to the fruit for a second, how little fruit could somebody eat on a day-to-day basis that could be putting on fat?
It depends on their activity levels, right? So a dude who's really active could eat a couple pieces of fruit a day, and it really wouldn't do much to them as long as they're active and they pair it with some protein.
So let's talk about the average American woman who is working in an office who loves acai bowls.
Well, it depends on how much fat she has on her body.
Wow.
And it depends on her energy levels, her hormones. It depends on how much she's moving. I know when you're in an office, you're not really moving that much. So yeah, if you are having any weight issues, if you're having blood sugar issues where you feel hypoglycemic at moments, where you feel like your blood sugar's crashing, I'd avoid the fruit.
So
sure.
When your blood sugar is crashing, if you are hypoglycemic or whatever, what is the best thing to snack on then?
Protein. Always protein.
Okay. My dad was a type 2 diabetic, and I just thought this is garbage advice, but he was like, I have to have a Coke, I have to have a candy or whatever. Yep. That's what the doctor's telling him. I mean, they were bringing him into the hospital room, bringing him Fanta and stuff to drink when they'd see his little monitor spike. I'm like, what is this garbage?
Was he on medication for his diabetes? Okay, so that's why.
Okay.
So we have type 1 diabetes, which their pancreases don't produce insulin. That usually comes on in childhood. Sometimes it can come on adult onset, but it's mostly in childhood. They think it's an autoimmune condition. I don't really buy into that, but that's all they know, and nobody really knows. So that's type 1 diabetes. Their pancreases just don't produce insulin. Type 2 is when you've had years of eating carbohydrates and years of a high insulin environment in your body, meaning your pancreas has produced a shit ton of insulin chronically. What happens is the receptor of the cell, there's a cellular receptor, insulin receptor on every cell, and that receptor becomes wore down. And when that receptor becomes wore down, you develop what's called insulin resistance. I think of insulin like a key, and then the receptor's like the keyhole. And if the keyhole is wore out, it's not going to feel the key turning. And so the cell doesn't hear the message of insulin being there. And so it doesn't open up to allow glucose in. And that's why insulin lowers the blood sugar. A lot of people get confused about insulin's role, but insulin activates glucose into the cell, taking it out of the blood, putting it into the cell, in turn, dropping the blood glucose. And so that's why diabetics have to be careful, and they have to do something like, Tom, we do maple syrup sticks, organic, natural maple syrup stick. If he takes too much insulin and he starts coming down too quickly, he'll take a maple syrup stick to bring his blood glucose up, because if diabetics take too much synthetic insulin, it can be life-threatening to them.
Wow, okay.
We know that, he has to do something sometimes, and that's okay. But for type 2 diabetes, when they're on medication, it's the same thing. When they take insulin or they take metformin or whatever it is they're on, GLP-1s, whatever it is, and their blood sugar starts to crash, the doctor's going to tell them you need to take something sugar, fast acting, to get your blood glucose up. Now, protein won't raise your blood glucose because it takes a really long time to do that. It raises it slowly over time through gluconeogenesis. And that's the breakdown of protein into glucose. So that process takes a while. That doesn't happen like maple syrup. It takes 7 minutes to get the blood sugar to go up with maple syrup. We've timed it. And protein is going to take you 2, 3, 4, maybe even a whole day's worth to break it down and turn it into glucose.
Okay.
But once it does, it's a nice steady raise in the blood sugar that's just even. You do maple syrup, you're going like this. You do an apple, this.
Right.
You do your smoothie, you're going like this, even with the protein powder in it. Because protein powders are pulverized dry protein. So they're like pre-digested. So when you consume them, all protein breaks down to glucose through gluconeogenesis. When you consume them, you can watch your blood glucose go up. Wow. I didn't know this. I didn't know a protein shake would cause my blood sugar to go up until I watched it happen over and over again to my husband. I learned real quickly that what we think we're doing, and our ancestors didn't have protein powders. They didn't have big plastic tubs of protein powder, True. They didn't. They had to go hunt their food. So they had to, like you said, eat the whole animal. They had to be very thankful for the whole animal. And it was a process. And sometimes they went days without eating. And that's how nature was. We thrived and grew our population to what it is today because we were given that variety. We fasted, we feasted, we fought by hunting. That was in us. That was part of our nature.
So when you're deep diving into insulin and learning all of this with your husband, what did you find out about insulin and stubborn fat that people are really struggling to lose?
Oh, it was like the most serendipitous thing that ever happened to me. And I do believe that it was a gift from God. I prayed about this for a long time, and I've always wanted to help people. That was kind of my thing. That's why I became a board certified holistic nutritionist. I wanted to help. I wanted to help people find natural solutions and be healthier. And when I met Tom, I realized I was doing everything wrong. And, we were struggling with his blood sugar. And I was like, honey, we got to do something different. I can't do this anymore. This is so scary. His blood sugar would drop low and we'd have to give him a glucagon shot. And it's scary because they can go into a diabetic coma. And I said, I can't do this anymore. What do we need to do? And so he starts teaching me, well, we need to do this. I need to eat just meat and vegetables. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do it. So I'm like, I'm going to do this with you because I want to help you. I know it's hard when everybody else is eating all the bullshit. You have to stick to one thing. I'd done a million diets in my life. And I'm like, so I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to do everything just like we need to do so your blood sugar is balanced. And we did that for a month, and I dropped 8 pounds in a month. And I'd been trying to lose this weight that had been coming on year after year.
Were you really overweight, or you just had like a little bit?
I was skinny fat.
Okay. What does skinny fat mean?
I had lipedema, so I had really bad cellulite. I had really hard pockets of fat on the outside of my legs that were really tender. I had this little pooch that was hanging over. But if you saw me in my clothes, you would have thought, she looks like a healthy body weight, but to take off my clothes, you saw it was very disproportionate fat. It was really weird. It wasn't like, how some people have that really nice like fat layer underneath them that's they just kind of get this nice curvy. I didn't have that. Like I had big pockets of fat on me, and those went away in a month, and I couldn't believe it. So I started working with some of my clients and telling them to do what I was doing. And then I started seeing results in all my clients. Basically, my test subject was 500 women. And this was my practice. I had my holistic health center, and I saw clients one-on-one in person. I did herbs, homeopathy. I did all the supplements, and they all wanted to lose weight, and I could never help any of them. So I told them, like, let's do this thing that I just did, and let's see if it works on you. And so they were my test group, and it worked on all of them.
And all it was just protein and vegetables?
No. It wasn't that. That was the start of it, Alex.
Oh.
That was the start of it.
Tell me.
So I had done keto 6 or 7 times prior to meeting Tom. I had done Atkins diet way back in the day and ate nothing but hamburgers and, eggs and butter. And, I'd lose 5 pounds and then I'd gain it back a week later and then nothing would ever happen. So I'd just give up. That's kind of what it was. Well, when I started working with Tom's blood sugar, he started teaching me how meat affects his blood sugar and how fat affects his blood sugar. So I remember one night, and we're kind of coined the term the ribeye effect. Carnivores tear us apart about this because they want to tell everybody to eat all the fat. And I'm like, no. Dial it in on the fat, ladies, because it will have an impact on your blood sugar in a negative way. So Tom ate a big giant ribeye one night, and we could not get his blood sugar down for an entire day the next day. His blood sugar went up over 300 and it stayed locked in. And if you think about protein digests slower in the digestive tract, and so does fat. But all the fat was in his blood, and it just kept depositing there through the digestion process. So it took us an entire day to get his blood sugar back down after a ribeye. And that's when I realized this is why all the carnivores get plateaued and they can't get through the extra fat. They're eating so much fat on their meat. They're eating these big, hunky, fatty meats, and they just get stuck and they can't get the rest of their fat on their body gone because their insulin is high. Now, insulin is the master fat storing hormone. Saturated fat blocks the ability for insulin to get into the receptor. For some reason, I don't know why. I want somebody to study it. I want somebody to tell me why. Because I brought this up with numerous people that are experts, and they're like, well, that shouldn't be the case. Well, yeah, guess what? It shouldn't be, but it's what happens. His blood sugar gets locked in. Fat slows the absorption of insulin. It's in any anatomy physiology book. So the fat slows the absorption of insulin, and then what the body does is the same thing that Tom had to do when he ate that ribeye. He had to give himself more insulin. So then the body has to secrete more insulin out of you, right? He's giving it to him synthetically, but you're making it in your own body.
Is your theory that carnivores are plateauing because the meat they're eating is too fatty? If they did leaner meats, that they would be able to continue?
Yes, I think that there's other reasons, but I think that is a major part of it. We do need to eat fat. It is absolutely necessary to eat fat.
Well, who's this older woman who's been carnivore forever? She's in her 80s or something that you like?
Oh, Maggie White.
Yes.
So Maggie.
Maggie White. Mm-hmm. What sorts of, she's been carnivore for 40 years or something?
Yeah. I mean, she's 83.
She looks amazing.
And she's been carnivore for I think 50 years, close to that.
She's ripped in her, it's the wildest thing. Google her.
Fantastic.
My audience needs to Google her because I know they don't know who she is. So that woman though, I mean, what is the meat that she's eating on carnivore?
She was eating a lot of wild game. So if you listen to her talk, in any interview she does, she was like, yeah, I'd go out and just hunt my elk that morning or my deer that morning. I just go out and hunt my deer.
The wild food.
She just she literally hunted it off of her property herself. And now they did raise cows. So they had their grass-fed beef, but she also ate a lot of wild game, and she just never ate vegetables. She just didn't like them. She told her mom, I don't like these. So she stopped eating veggies when she was a young girl and just ate meat for her entire life. And she looks fantastic.
So is it possible to actually reverse cellulite?
Oh, I did 100%. Absolutely.
How did you reverse your cellulite?
I've done it for thousands of women in my program too. Yeah, in no time at all. It's incredible. That's kind of what I'm known for. Well, cellulite is just fat. It's just extra fat, right? And when we get large deposits of it, our body builds sclerotic tissue to hold it in place. So all you have to do is get into ketosis. You get into ketosis, which means you're burning your own body fat. And when you burn your own body fat, you can eat up those fat cells. Basically, it's really, truly what you're doing. Our bodies are self-feeding. We were designed to survive a famine, so we can feed on ourselves. And it was meant that we were supposed to be in ketosis and also burn glucose at the same time, which meat provides us all the opportunity to do that. Meat provides us with glucose by breaking down to through gluconeogenesis, and then we can burn that meat nice and slow and steady through the glucose. And any fat we get off of it, we can burn through ketones, or we can burn fat on our body. We can eat lots of meat, build some superficial subcutaneous fat on our body, and then eat that fat. That's what bears do through hibernation. Animals do this. They get fat in the summer, and then they feed on their own bodies all winter long while they're hibernating. But we don't do that now, do we? What do? We have large displays of food during all the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, all these winter month holidays, Halloween, which is, whatever, but they're eating candy, they're eating sugar. Like, you're eating all of this stuff during a time where food in the wild is scarce.
And also you're sleeping more because it's dark earlier.
Yeah.
So we're like living all the time like it's summer, like, up
with
late.
These lights, with these bright lights on all the time.
Yeah.
With our temperatures always at 72 degrees.
Okay, so here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What time, ideally, should we be eating dinner, and what type of light should we be having while we're eating dinner?
Insulin and melatonin would tell you that dinner isn't really an option. You shouldn't really be eating dinner if you have weight to lose. Now, if you don't have weight to lose and you're like doing great and you have no visceral fat, you can get away with eating some dinners, but it's still not great for you.
Okay, hold on, pause. If you have weight to lose, should you be eating a really big breakfast or really big lunch or both and then skipping dinner?
What I like is breakfast and what I call Lynne.
Okay.
So farmers used to eat that way. They would eat a good sized breakfast. They'd go out and work in the fields all day. They'd come back in and they would eat 1 o'clock, 1 to 2 p.m., huge, large feast. I grew up on a farm. This is what they did. They'd eat a big feast at 1 or 2 p.m. and then nighttime would be like sipping on some broth or whatever little cup of soup they had. That's basically it. And that's how the Greeks ate too. They had their largest meal at what I call Lynne time. It's not lunch and it's not dinner. It's in between the two. And when you do that, your body can process all that food. And so what happens is your insulin comes in, it processes all the food, activates, and then it comes down. And then melatonin can start rising. But if insulin is high, melatonin won't come out. So you have all these people who are popping these CBD gummies, trying to go to sleep. They're taking their Tylenol PMs because they're eating so late at night. They're eating dinner at 6, 7 o'clock at night.
That's too late.
And their blood sugar's going up. And guess what has to come out if the blood sugar comes up? Insulin. Insulin blocks melatonin.
Whoa.
And melatonin is your body's major antioxidant. If you want to repair yourself, oxidative stress is rusting of the body. And if you want your body to repair itself, you absolutely should try to invoke melatonin. You should work with melatonin, not against it. You want melatonin to come out. So you want to turn your lights off at night, because the other thing that makes melatonin not come out is bright light.
So we should be eating, if you're not somebody trying to lose weight and you do want to enjoy dinner, you should be eating at what, 4 p.m.?
Right. That would be better. That would be better. So
Okay.
4 p.m. would be pretty good.
It's just nuts because it's like, I know what my audience is going to say. They're like, this is unrealistic. We're working 9 to 5. My husband, at least, works 9 to 5. How can I get my family to eat? I mean, so I guess it would be more like 5:30 as soon as possible, have the dinner.
What I say to that is, I'm starting a grassroots movement, and that movement consists of women who are putting their foot down to make a change for what's best for their family's health. And what's best for their family's health isn't what their fucking boss says, right? So we got to make a change, and we got to make the work environment better for families, because it's not good for little kids to eat late at night. Why do you think everybody has nightmares? Eat a hot dog, eat a bratwurst, and go to bed and tell me you don't have the most terrible nightmares you've ever had. It's your gut, your microbiome is totally connected to your brain. So whatever you're eating is causing those night terrors. And you hear little kids having night terrors, what do they eat? That's the first thing I think of. What do they eat and how late did they eat it?
I love this idea because I would love to see this as a part of the MAHA movement, is just changing the way Americans treat work and how much time we're supposed to be spending, like in an office, for example. We don't have these long lunches. We're not able to digest our food properly. We're required to work late, into the night and all this.
Yes.
Like, it's all garbage. Also, I had another guest bring this up, and I love this idea. All this AI crap have the jobs that are the third shift overnight, that should all be AI.
Yes.
So that we are all on our circadian rhythms, hitting those perfectly. That's what I would like to see. So I love that idea. But as far as like women putting her foot down, we're eating earlier. Okay, so we're eating earlier. And then what is ideal for, seasons of the year? Summer, I'm guessing, try to eat outside if you're eating.
Yeah.
And then winter, what do you do?
I think be outside as much as you can. So my feeling on it is we were outside 98% of the day when we lived at one with Earth. And now we've domesticated ourselves, right? So we used to be wolves, now we're labradoodles. And we live inside, in carpet, under light, under fake synthetic temperature, under everything. So I'm a real big fan of getting outside as much as possible during any season.
And you live in Wisconsin, so, because if I try to say this, people are like, well, it's easy for you. You live in sunny Arizona.
Right. But then what I say to them is, you got to choose what's important to you. And my choice is my body. My body is my temple. I choose that first over anything else. But do I make it work? Yes, I make it work. I live in Wisconsin. Yeah, you can't be out there. You're going to freeze. Like the natives did it. How did they do it? How were they out? They wore furs and wools and, there's native tribes all over in that area, the Midwest, and they survived those gnarly winters. So we can get out there and do it. We just don't want to.
So is it preferable to have dinner by candlelight or firelight?
Yes, always. Okay. Always. The softest thing you can do in your life. Always try to match whatever nature is doing.
And what time are you putting your blue light blocker glasses on?
I put them on only at nighttime when you see me in the reels and I have them on, it's because it's nighttime and I have huge studio lights, as you know, on me, and they're ultra bright. So I wear them just at nighttime. I don't wear them during the day. You can wear them if you want. If you're on a computer and you're in an office where you don't have any natural light, you can wear the blue light blockers. But I don't. I have so much natural light in my house that I don't need to wear them.
And what time do you go to bed and what time do you wake up in the morning?
I'm usually asleep by usually around 9:30. I mean, that's late for me. There's some times where I'm cozy in my bed at 8:30 in the winter months. And then I'm usually up right around 5.
And are you working out first or are you eating first?
No, I'm calm in the morning. I'm just chill. I'm like checking out how I feel. I might do a little stretching. Then I like to go for a walk. I just go for a nice long walk and drink a lot of water. I drink a lot of water. I do not drink coffee.
Why don't you drink coffee? Is coffee making American women less horny?
Yes.
What is the deal with coffee?
That is so true. Yes, coffee's disastrous for our hormones. So and I learned this just by, studying it for one thing, but doing it. I learned that when I drink coffee, I get perimenopausal symptoms, and I'm 45. So I'll get hot flashes at night. My periods will be longer or shorter in length. They'll be wonky. Sometimes I get 2 a month while I'm drinking coffee. I take the coffee out, everything goes normal.
Now, is this a you thing or have multiple women done what you suggested in getting rid of coffee and they have the same improvements?
Yes. I would say 3/4 of the women that go through my program go off coffee and they get the exact same thing. And some of these women go off HRT. A lot of them.
Really?
And their
just
hormones,
because of getting rid of coffee?
And their hormones come completely back online. Well, I think it's all of it, all the things we do in Primal Bod contributes to their overall general ability to their body's ability to heal itself.
And what about organic coffee?
All coffee and even decaf, it's a toxin. And it's like alcohol. Now, do I have a cup of coffee? Maybe like 2 times a year, 3 times a year on an occasion when I got to stay up late for some reason. I'll have a little bit of coffee. I'm not an absolutist, but at the same time, I want to feel good. It's way more important to me. I'm at the age now where I'm like, this. I don't want a hangover. I don't want to freaking have hot flashes. It's just not worth it.
But I mean, you also have this camp of people that are like, okay, I don't know what she's on, but like if I do not have my coffee in the morning, I am not functioning.
Yeah, that's a problem. Why can't you function without coffee? Because our ancestors didn't drink coffee. Now, coffee was introduced, right? But our hunter ancestors didn't drink it. And, if you can't function in your life without coffee, that is a sign something is terribly wrong. You need to be looking into what else you're doing in your environment that tanked your energy. And mostly, Alex, it's coffee that tanked your energy. Coffee is like whipping a tired horse. Your adrenals need a break. And our lifestyles encourage us to be out of control with our inner metronome, right? We have this inner metronome that is like supposed to be calm and relaxed most of the day. That's your parasympathetic mode. And coffee sends your inner metronome to sympathetic mode, which is fight or flight. We're gonna drive harder. We're gonna get all this stuff done. And it's also a drug. So it's highly addictive. So not only does it ramp up your cortisol and your adrenaline, it's a drug. So it's addictive. So you get addicted to feeling that ramped up feeling all the time of like this energy. Then when you go off and you lose that energy, you're like, this doesn't feel right. When in reality, your coffee energy was fake. Your real energy is to be calm and gentle and aware of your environment.
I might have to title this episode as Coffee Killing Horniness in America. Then it'll definitely be viral.
I love it.
What is your opinion on people who are not type 1 diabetic wearing glucose monitors constantly?
Yes, this one, we love this one. So continuous glucose monitors are great for type 1 diabetics because they monitor their blood throughout the day and then they can send a signal to their insulin pump telling them how much insulin their body needs at that time. For someone who is not diabetic, it's useless, ultimately.
Why do you say that?
Because their body still produces insulin and their body is still reacting to insulin. Now, if they've developed insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, then continuous glucose monitors have a really good place because they can monitor their blood sugar, and type 2 diabetes is reversible with diet and exercise. That's known everywhere. But if they don't have any sign of insulin resistance yet, then they're not going to see the true effects of those foods on their blood sugar because their insulin is still working. So for example, let's say someone eats a piece of sourdough toast and they eat the sourdough toast and they watch their blood sugar go up, but then it comes right back down. They think, well, I don't have a blood sugar problem because my blood sugar went up for a minute, but then it just went back down, right? But what they don't see is what's behind the veil, which is a massive amount of insulin their body just had to produce to get that blood sugar down, to get the glucose into the cell and turn the extra glucose into fat, because that's what extra glucose does. Insulin will take it to the liver and get it turned into fat. That's why everybody's obese, right? Because they're eating all of this stuff that they think has no impact on their blood sugar because insulin still works. But over time, with too much insulin, that receptor wears down, and then they've developed insulin resistance. Then they develop type 2 diabetes because it happens within a month sometimes for people.
How often do you eat bread?
Never. Bread is peasant food. I would never touch it.
Okay, now wait a minute here. Before we get hasty, what's your opinion on the milling your own flour trend?
No,
you're not bought into it.
Waste of time. Learn animal husbandry.
But if we're talking about ancient foods and what did your ancestors eat? Bread?
When they were starving. That's why I call it peasant food. When they were starving, they had to eat those things. But the true prize was always the meat. It was always the meat. Yes, we've been sold this agenda, push this agenda on us that red meat is bad and all meat, and we should eat meat in very moderate amounts. Of course, because meat makes you really strong and it helps your brain and it helps babies' brains develop. So of course they're going to tell us the thing not to do that's going to make us stronger, right? Because then we're less dependent on their drugs and their protocols and whatever they're trying to sell us. We've been sold this idea that meat is bad for us and that all of these peasant foods that were survival foods, those are good for us now. My grandpa, I used to make him ham hock and beans because I thought that's what he would want. Like I'm thinking my grandpa's wants this like traditional old food, right? And he'd say, Kisser, did you soak the beans? Because I'd make him these beans. And I go, no, Grandpa, they're in the crock pot. They're fine. And he's like, no, you got to soak them. Beans are poisonous. And I said, at the time I had no idea. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Grandpa. I don't soak them. And he's like, you got to soak everything, Kisser.
He's on that Weston A. Price
He
train.
knew that those foods were the foods they ate when there was no meat around.
Wow.
And that was what they used to survive, but they were so toxic, they were almost inedible.
What do you have against avocado toast?
Well, it's in chia seed pudding and overnight oats, right? It's all this bullshit cutesy food.
So this is clown food.
This is ultimate clown food. Yeah. This is trendy clown food. Like, this is the Instagram, like, look how perfect my chia seed pudding is, Like, this is the garbage of garbage.
Now, avocado on its own?
Great. Okay. I eat avocado. It is a selectively bred plant. Wild avocado's pretty much inedible. It's super bitter and there's hardly any meat and it's pretty hard. So wild avocado isn't really that edible, but I do eat some avocado. I will have it on occasion. Like I said, I'm not an extremist in that way. I know I'm a girl that grew up in 1980. Like, I grew up with avocados, right? Like, I eat a little bit, but I know they're not my food. My true food that nourishes my body is meat.
I'm a horrible parent. Dog parent, that is, which isn't a real parent. Don't get it confused. But I gave Mochi a little extra raw salmon treat the other morning, and within minutes, he had tossed it all over my apartment. Sticky, smelly mess. I grabbed my Branch Basics all-purpose cleaner. I keep the bottle always with me. Diluted it per the label and wiped the entire countertop, even the tile floor, the carpet. Clean in one go. No harsh fumes, no residue, and so easy on my lungs and skin, and also easy on his lungs and skin. I love that it is plant and mineral based. It would be okay if he ate it. No parabens, no synthetic fragrance. It's biodegradable. I have replaced every cleaner under my sink with just this one concentrate by Branch Basics. I use it for dishes, laundry, you name it. Allison, the founder who I just interviewed a couple weeks ago, said that she uses it to remove her eye makeup and her kids bathe with it. Refilling it is so easy, cost effective. This is inexpensive, you guys. For people that are like, it's always more money to go non-toxic, it's literally not. You're getting rid of almost all of your cleaning supplies and replacing it with one thing that does it all. You can refill it. It saves me money. And they have cheaper plastic. You can also get glass bottles that are beautiful that they sell. Branch Basics gives me peace of mind that my dog isn't inhaling anything sketchy, that my future kids won't either, and I'm not. Make this year your cleanest, healthiest yet with Branch Basics. Get 15% off the premium starter kit by going to branchbasics.com and using code ALEX15. That's 15% off your starter kit with code ALEX15 at branchbasics.com. Ever wondered if you should be taking collagen or colostrum? People get confused. Which one should I do? Well, here's the scoop. Collagen supports your joints and skin. It is a protein that helps maintain structure and elasticity in your skin, joints, and connective tissue. Cowboy colostrum offers even more. It is the first milk that mammals produce after giving birth, packed with immune-boosting compounds, growth factors, and nutrients that support your gut, immunity, and overall wellness. And the best part, it tastes great. No chalky aftertaste, no sketchy ingredients. Cowboy colostrum doesn't use any natural flavors, just clean, powerful, grass-fed colostrum that does what it is supposed to, and it is full fat. Unlike the other guys, they are not full fat colostrum. So what do you choose, collagen or colostrum? Look, collagen and colostrum both have unique benefits. And so using both gives your body the full spectrum support that it needs between hair, skin, and nails, immunity, all those things. So I would try Cowboy Colostrum today at cowboycolostrum.com. Use code ALEX for 25% off. Start reaping the benefits of adding collagen and then also colostrum to your routine. That's cowboycolostrum.com, code ALEX. What should people struggling with obesity eat more of?
Meat. Way more meat. And drink water.
But what kind of water? Because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Some water's good, some is useless.
The best thing for people to do is call their local water agency, that whatever they have that distributes spring water, and find out what's going to work best for them. I order Mountain Valley spring water. I've got huge 5-gallon glass carboys in my garage, and we have a copper little tap. So it's ionized, it goes through the copper, and they purify it with the light, but it's the closest thing to drinking out of a spring as I can get. Wisconsin doesn't have any real springs that I can go to. Now, if I had a spring I could go to and fill up my water, I would do that. And that's what I would tell everyone to do is findaspring.com or .org is a great place. You can see if you have a local spring in your area to go fill up spring water. You get that those good microbes in that spring water like our ancestors had. So yeah, water's important. A lot of people aren't drinking enough water, and that's why they get sugar cravings.
So more meat. If you are obese, you need to eat more meat and drink more water.
And ferments. We eat a lot of naturally fermented foods to get sauerkraut, the pickles, the naturally fermented pickles and kimchi.
Dude, I am obsessed with fermented green beans.
Yeah.
I put in like garlic and spices and all that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're really good.
Your Amish farms in like Indiana, Pennsylvania, whatever, they sell those, get them. So good.
Yeah, as long as they're lacto-fermented.
Okay.
That they were fermented and they aren't just vinegar brined.
Okay.
If they're brined in vinegar, they don't have the probiotic.
Ooh.
So you want them lacto-fermented. And usually they have to be in the refrigerator section, not the sauerkraut you buy off the shelf, right? You want them refrigerated because that's the process that stops the fermentation from happening. So that's where you get all those really good microbes for your gut.
You're at a steakhouse. Your choices are Wagyu or ribeye. What are you ordering?
Definitely ribeye. Absolutely ribeye. I will not eat Wagyu. Forget it.
I thought Wagyu was like the best of the best. This is like rich people eat it. It's so expensive.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Is Wagyu a psyop?
It could be. I don't know. Maybe I made it one. The shit I got from that Wagyu beef reel I did. Oh my gosh. The farmers were out of control on that. But Wagyu is so diseased. That animal is so diseased. Now, I'm not talking like, Nancy and Fred have their family farm of Wagyus that they grass feed and they do everything perfectly, whatever, that's fine. I'm talking the Wagyu beef you buy at a restaurant. That Wagyu beef is so diseased. That animal is very sick. To get the fat into the muscle like that takes a diseasing of the animal. So there is no way I would eat that diseased meat. No way.
I'm working out for the first time in my life.
Okay.
Everyone is telling me you got to eat more carbs. You got to eat more carbs. Do you agree or disagree?
I completely disagree. You have to eat more protein, girlfriend.
Okay.
And why? So why are you working out? To build muscle?
Yeah.
Just to get stronger?
I've always been thin, but I mean, I'm like pathetic. You know what I mean? I have no strength. So that's what I'm doing.
But you can be thin and be strong. So a lot of, people today, and you see these chicks on Instagram and they have these huge booties and they have these big blown out.
Okay, let's just, the butts are out of control.
I know, aren't they?
I don't even think it's attractive. It's like, it's too much. And some of these girls, I think they're lying. I think they're lying
for sure.
when they
There's
say—
Brazilian butt lifts going on.
Yes.
For sure.
There's no way. It's unnatural looking. That's an aside. But I'm tired of the butts. I'd like to see something else. Anyway.
The whole fad of having women be super, super muscular like that and look like gym bros, they
don't
get
like
these
that.
really muscular look. It doesn't necessarily mean they're strong, right? I just watched a reel the other day, just to prove my point, of a 155-pound wrestler wrestling a I don't even know, 200, he had 100 pounds on him, 250-pound bodybuilder. This guy was like ripped. And they were wrestling, and the bodybuilder was a little taller than the other guy. And the wrestler that was 155 pounds took him down like that. So just because you have big muscles doesn't mean you're really strong.
So how do you really get strong?
Sprinting, for one.
Sprinting? I'm out.
Sprinting
No thanks.
is the best way to get strong.
Why?
100-meter sprints. So that's all you do. 100-meter sprints. And it's really fun, Alex. I think you would enjoy it if you knew how easy it was to get up and do 3 100-meter sprints every morning. And you don't have to do them right away. Like I said, I don't. I go for a walk and I'll do a couple sprints on my walk. And it's super easy. 100 meters is nothing. You just run as fast as you can. That's all you have to do.
Why is that good for
100 meters? It's amazing for you. Long distance running, the opposite. Long distance running is not good. So we found this out when we started working with Dr. Sean O'Mara, and he started researching visceral fat. And what he found was sprinters had the least amount of visceral fat. long distance runners, marathon runners had the most. What he has found is sprinting releases myokines. So when you run really quickly and you do HIIT type movements, high intensity movements for short amounts of time, that releases something called myokines, which helps with muscle growth. So these sprinters can get nice, strong muscles just from sprinting, not even lifting weights. So walking with a weighted vest can make you really strong too. You don't have to go to a gym.
That's called rucking, right?
Rucking, exactly. And it can make you very strong. It has made me very strong. And it's natural because what would we have done in nature?
And can't you do that wearing a baby?
You can, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we did in nature. We carried our babies, we carried water, we carried heavy things. So rucking is a really easy way to get your weight-bearing exercises in without having to go to the gym.
And how many kids do you have?
5.
Okay, and you had one son who's like very thin, and he's always been thin.
Plain.
Couldn't gain any muscle though, and then he was doing something wrong, and then you were helping him, and then he changed something, and then all of a sudden he had muscle. What was going on there?
So he was, the poor kid, I mean, trying so hard, working out in the gym, trying to make gains, doing the creatine, doing the protein powders, doing all the carb loading, I mean, he was so skinny. He had no fat on his body. I mean, he was probably like, what would you say, honey? Like 6% body fat? I mean, he had no fat on his body. You couldn't pinch an inch on him. He tried everything, eating more fat, he was eating meat at the time, but he was eating a lot of carbs too and a lot of protein powders and stuff. Couldn't gain the weight for nothing. He moves to Wisconsin because he was living in Washington at the time, moves to Wisconsin, starts working for us. He goes carnivore and just eats just nothing but meat. Removes all the carbs. And so this is a tall kid. I mean, he's 6'3". So he's getting all of his calories from meat. All of his food to fill him up comes from meat. That's what did it. That was the only thing. And he just starts getting ripped, and he's not working out anymore, right? He's busy working, but he's not going to the gym. And he's like, Mom, look at how ripped I'm getting. He's flexing like, oh my gosh. So he starts doing like little 15-minute workouts during the day. And he just gets yoked from eating meat. You have to have the right balance of amino acids. They all work together and do something. He was just doing creatine and he was doing some other protein powders, and it just wasn't enough. He just wasn't consuming enough of what he needed.
Why does everybody fail on the keto diet?
So there's 2 things that happen. One is they usually don't get into ketosis, and the other one is they get too deep into ketosis and slow their metabolic rate down. So the first thing that happens with the not getting into ketosis is they eat a bunch of keto junk food. So they think they're eating keto, and they go to the store and they buy everything labeled keto, and it's just processed junk, and it's not keto at all. It's not going to get you into ketosis. So ketosis is a state of being. It's a natural state of being for our body. And like I said, we should be in ketosis throughout the day. We should be burning glucose and ketones at the same time. But when you're only burning glucose, your body is not burning fat. And insulin is the thing that keeps that in check. So insulin sits on the fat cells and doesn't let your body burn the fat, which is getting into ketosis. When you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, your body is just burning glucose. It doesn't need to burn into the fat because it can just burn the glucose. Now, why would the body do that if burning ketones is so healthy? Because your DNA is wired for survival. It's wired to survive a famine. And so it never wants to burn fat. Fat is the diamond of the body. Only when it's pushed to burn fat will it do it. And nature, with its perfect food, the way God intended it, provided us with a perfect wild meat to eat that would keep us in ketosis naturally, preventing us from storing a bunch of excess fat. So the wild has the perfect setup for us to be skinny and cute as fuck. And we don't do that. We eat in clown world, domesticated world with the grocery stores, right? That's the circus. And so now we're getting fat. But if you just went into the wild and ate foods from the wild, you would get skinny. And it's because your body would be pushed, because the carbohydrate wasn't there, your body would be pushed to burn the fat and utilize the fat. My grandpa used to say, bring my grandpa up again, God rest his soul, he was such a cool guy, but he would say, kiss her, I don't need to eat. I got a couple extra meals stored up on me, right? That's what happens. When you eat more than you burn, you store it as fat. That glucose gets converted into fat. And you can do that with meat, by the way. This is why some girls join the carnivore diet and they get fat eating the meat and the fat. Fat also makes you fat.
This is the complete opposite. I thought this was all garbage that is wrong, that we need fat, we need cholesterol, it's good for our brains.
We do need some. But again, the wild animals,
Okay.
they had a little bit, not a lot. So we need a very small amounts of that fat, but we need it the way nature provided it. In the salmon, in the, bison, wherever the fatty parts were. Butter is tricky. Dairy, I believe dairy is more of like a survival food. Humans are the only species that drink breast milk after we're adults.
Are you not on the raw milk train?
No, not at all.
What?
No.
Tell us why.
Not at all. I mean, raw milk is fine. If you're going to be a person that drinks milk, drink raw. For sure.
Okay.
But milk in general and dairy products are something I am very highly selective about and cautious of, because dairy is an interesting food. It is very highly absorbable in the gut, for one thing. So you can absorb all the cholesterol. Cheese is one of the things. So I'm from Wisconsin. They eat a lot of cheese there. So you can absorb all of the stuff out of the cheese, right? All the fats. It's super fatty. It's got a lot of calcium in it. You start throwing your calcium levels way through the roof, and then you're not going to be able to make your vitamin D or utilize your vitamin D like you should, because parathyroid hormone will slow down. So dairy is a very interesting thing. It's full of insulin growth-like factors. It's made to grow a baby cow, and it is the carnivore carbohydrate. So it will spike your blood sugar like crazy.
I saw the cutest TikTok clip yesterday, a baby watching mom eat chips, totally mesmerized. And every time mom crunches, the baby tries to say, tip. I can almost hear tip, tip. Every time I open a bag of masa now. Chips and fries used to be cooked in beef tallow until about the 90s, when big foods swapped to cheap seed oils. Today, seed oils make up about 20% of our daily calories, and studies link them to inflammation, metabolic drama, and even brain fog. Masa said, no way. Their tortilla chips are made with just 3 clean ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt from Redmond's, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow with 0 seed oils. No crash, no regrets, just clean, feel-good crunch. And if even a baby thinks that masa is worth a tip, you know that it's something special. Join tens of thousands of fans, plus health influencers like Ben Greenfield and Gary Brecka, who've given them a thumbs up. Masa Chips is beloved by so many customers and myself, and endorsed by the experts. So if you're ready to give masa a try and try their tips, go to masachips.com/RealAlexClark. Use code RealAlexClark for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/RealAlexClark. Code RealAlexClark for 25% off your first order. When people say to you, don't you ever just crave a Baconator or a Dairy Queen Blizzard? What do you say?
No, I never crave that. I have nightmares about like eating that food sometimes. I'll wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just a nightmare. I don't have cravings. I crave meat. If I crave something, it's meat, but I don't really get cravings. I can go a long time without food. I'm not starving. I used to be hungry all the time. I get hungry. I have an appetite, but it can come and go, right? I can get hungry, and then if I wait 10 minutes, it's just gone, and I'm like burning my body fat. So that's what fat adaptation means. That's what being fat adapted is that your body's ability to feed on itself is there. But people who are just burning glucose, it's harder for them to get into ketosis because they have a lot of insulin, and insulin blocks the fat cell from releasing. So it's like a gatekeeper. It sits on top of the fat cell and it won't let it release. But once insulin leaves and the blood sugar lowers and insulin's gone, the fat can be deposited out into the system, and it can get turned into ketones in the liver. And you can use those ketones to burn fuel, which that fuel is actually way more efficient than burning glucose for fuel.
What do you think about cold plunging for women?
Cold plunging for women, I think it makes most women strong. I wouldn't recommend it for pregnant women, but I do recommend it for almost all other women. It can really help with the inability to regulate your body temperature. It just creates this inner strength. I think there's a way to do it though. I don't recommend people sit in ice baths. I recommend they sit at like 60 degrees, maybe even 65, maybe even 70, and they just sit in there for 10 minutes and just get cool. It's really good for any inflammation. I mean, what do they tell you at the doctor? If you bum your knee up or you sprain your ankle, right? Put ice on it. Mm. So I love to get into a cold plunge, dunk my head, cool my head down. And I love it for women because all the women that go through my program and they do cold plunging, they get stronger. It also revs your metabolism up. So it makes you burn more and you produce brown fat, which is the kind of fat you want. That's the sexy fat. So that's the fat that contains more mitochondria. And that fat can actually help you burn the bad fat. So it increases your metabolic rate. So you want to have the brown fat, but you only get the brown fat if you're doing the cold plunging. And also fasting triggers brown fat too.
Nicotine, woke or a joke?
I love your Alex terms. They're great. I think there's a place for nicotine. As an herbalist, I think that nicotine has its place for specific things. It is an anti-parasitic, but again, I view it kind of like coffee. It's a drug. It's a drug and it can become highly addictive.
So you do think nicotine, because we've got other people, like I've had Dr. Artis on my show, Brian Artis, and he's like, it's not addictive, this is a lie. You disagree?
Oh yeah. Okay. I smoked when I was younger.
Right, but he's saying it's, oh my gosh, now I don't remember the word. He's saying it's something else in cigarettes is what's making it addictive. It's not the nicotine.
I grew up in a logging industry and they chewed tobacco like crazy out there. And I would watch them get the shakes from not having their snus. That's what they called it. So I disagree with that. I think that it is addictive. But I also think that it has a place too. I think that it can be beneficial for certain things, just like I think THC and marijuana can be.
Well, I mean, he's saying he had a really radical take. And I mean, this is why I love talking to different guests because people get all, upset and worked up. Well, Candi said this, but Dr. Artis said this. So what am I supposed to believe? I'm like, That's the point. We listen to everybody's opinion, then you figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was saying, he believes cutting up a patch into a very small section, a small 7 milligram patch, and then you cut up even smaller, put that on a toddler even.
Oof, yeah, I would not do that.
Okay. So you're
no, babies are too close to God. I would not put anything. I wouldn't even put essential oils on a baby. There's no way.
What's going on with essential oils?
Well, essential oils have been known to make women produce estrogen and men. They can test it in the saliva. So it's estrogenic.
But is it only certain ones like lavender?
There are certain ones, yeah. There are certain ones that aren't. Like I think like the citrus oils aren't going to do anything, but I still wouldn't put them on a baby.
Okay.
There's no way. And I wouldn't have them around my baby. Do I have essential oils in my house? Yes, but I wouldn't have them around an infant. If an infant was around, I would not have the essential oils around.
When a woman is struggling to lose weight in only a certain part of her body, she's like, oh my gosh, I look great, I'm fabulous, but it's all in my hips or it's all in my thighs or all in my butt.
Disproportionate.
What is going on? What is her body telling her when that happens? Or is it just everybody's different, humans are different?
Most of it is that. Everybody's body shape is different. A little bit is, what you inherit from your family, because you're going to look like your family. There's only so much of that you can change. But some of it, like lipedema is usually the legs. And that's where you develop these hard pockets of fat, these nodules of fat. It's very unpleasant and uncomfortable. When they develop disproportionate fat or like belly fat, a lot of times they get this belly fat. That can be a sign of high stress, high cortisol. But most of it is tied to visceral fat. Again, a lot of it is they have visceral fat and it's just where their body's storing it. They're storing it around the organs, but then they're also putting it in the belly. And then, some of it's hormonal. Women who have higher estrogen levels can store in their butt and their thighs. But it's mostly just insulin, really.
Are people who say all you have to do is cut calories right or wrong?
Wrong. I think all women kind of know that because they've tried cutting the calories and they can only get so far. So this is awesome that you're asking me this, because this is like one thing that I want to finish off my thought. This is where the metabolic damage comes into play. And it's because your body can burn ketones and glucose at the same time. But if you drop your glucose levels too low, too frequently, you send warning signs off to your body, and your body will slow its metabolic rate down, meaning your thyroid function, everything slows down. And it's because your body wants to preserve itself. So if there is a famine and you are a self-feeding human, your body can prolong your life by slowing the metabolic rate, slowing how fast you eat away at yourself. How quickly that happens, your body will slow that process down so that you can preserve and have a longer length of time. And then maybe a deer runs by and you have dinner and now you can live, right? You can go on living. So that's why it happens. So when people do calories in, calories out, and they go through these kind of starvation diets where they're restricting heavily and they're eating like 500 calories a day, what happens is they end up really dropping their blood sugar a lot, frequently. And that leads to the wrong message to their brain. It leads their brain to think that they're in a famine, which will then slow their metabolic rate down. And that's where women get in trouble. They've done these crash diets, these yo-yo diets all these years. Your brain is neuroplastic. It will get wired to do things. How do you think you can train a dog, right? Your brain is wired. It's the Pavlov's dog theory. Your brain can get wired to do certain things. And subconsciously, our brain gets wired by these circumstances we put them under. So if we're constantly giving the message to our body that we are a prisoner of war and we're starving, then the body is going to respond. And what's going to happen? They're going to gain a bunch of weight when they start eating again, because their body was under panic mode. It was held under duress. They didn't have the food. Now they have the food, so it's just going to start storing fat. Now, insulin plays a role in this, a huge role, because insulin makes fat. So anytime they're restricting, they're dropping their calories down. They're also lowering their blood glucose. Now their body's free of insulin. They can burn fat. That's how they burn the fat and they lose the weight. But then what happens is you start refeeding again and you start eating carbs and introducing all this stuff back into your life. And the body's like, woof, let's flood the system with insulin. And let's make all this fat, baby, because that's what insulin does. It's the master fat storing hormone.
You think rice will make you fat?
It does.
How do you explain then all of the Asians who primarily live off rice and they do not have an obesity crisis like Americans?
They have a diabetes crisis, though.
Oh, tea.
Yeah,
I
they have
know
a diabetes crisis. Oh, yeah. So does India.
Oh,
yeah. And they have high amounts of visceral fat. So they have fat on the inside. And that's what rice does, is it makes you fat. Dr. Sean studied this in his research. He said they would send people away for the weekend and they would say, go eat a bunch of rice. They'd come back. The only way to track visceral fat, by the way, is through an MRI. You can't track it on a DEXA scan or an in-body. You cannot. It's all done through MRI. DEXA scans they just don't work for visceral fat. So he'd send them away for the weekend and he'd say, go eat a bunch of rice. And they would come back, and over one weekend of eating rice, they'd have put on huge amounts of visceral fat.
Whoa.
From one weekend of eating rice. His colleague that did the research with him was Asian. And he looked at himself and saw all the visceral fat he had. And he looked at Dr. Sean, who had very little visceral fat, and he was like, we got to figure this out. What is causing this? And what they found was it was the carbohydrates.
I am huge on tinfish. Huge. Sardines, mackerel, salmon,
Yeah, girl.
obsessed. I am a tinfish girly in a tinfish world. Are you in Tinfish Club?
Oh, yeah. I feel sometimes like I started Tinfish Club, honey. I mean.
Yeah, the first rule of Tinfish Club is you don't talk about Tinfish Club.
Yeah, Tinfish Club is awesome. Sardines are just they're the real superfood. You know, you see Costco with the labels of superfood, and you got the goji berries and all the, fancy flax seed, which is really awful. And that isn't the superfood. Sardines are the superfood. They'll make your skin glow. They'll help you with the sex drive. They are so nutrient dense. Now, you don't want to eat them in extreme amounts, right? Just like anything. Like everybody's panicked. Oh, Joe Rogan got arsenic poisoning from eating too many sardines. And yeah, he was eating like 4 cans a night for like a year. Okay, so like don't do that.
What's your favorite brand?
I love the Ortiz brand.
Yep.
Those are my favorite. They're
good.
so decadent. And it's just kind of like oily tuna.
Yeah.
If you don't like sardines, it's because you don't have the right brand.
I agree. So I am, and they're not a sponsor. They ignore me. I always am trying. But mine is Fishwife.
Yeah.
And
they're good too.
And I'm a sucker too for like aesthetic, cool branding. And man, they've got that down.
Yeah.
It's so glamorous. So I love the Fishwife stuff. But yeah, Ortiz is really good too.
Yeah.
And I like that it's, it's an olive oil, it's wild caught. That's just lemon, chili, flakes, stuff like that. I mean, it's really delicious.
It is.
And no nasty oils that they're putting it in.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what is wrong with the conventional doctor in America?
They're in the worst spot they've ever been in their lives. I would hate to be a medical doctor right now because of the way they're hand-tied with everything, their regulations, being able to hold their license. They have so many regulations and how deep big pharma is intertwined with all that bullshit. So I think that our doctors are, they're in a really bad situation. I don't know why anybody would want to be a doctor right now.
I don't either. Unless you're going into functional medicine, naturopath, stuff like that.
And thank God people do, because we need emergency care. We do. We need emergency care, but Western medicine is terrible at sick care. They are horrible. And the doctors out there that really want to make a difference, I think they find their way. They find their way along the path. Dr. Sean O'Mara is one of them. He was an ER doc. Dr. David Brownstein, he's freaking amazing. You got some of the carnivore docs like, Dr. Ken Berry, those guys. But I think that just the average person's medical doctor is about 30 years behind on what they should know.
See, and this is so true. And you've got these annoying little people that are in the comment sections on every video, and they're like, I don't know where you got your degree. Since when did you become a medical professional? Whatever. I'm like, the medical professionals don't know crap. They do not know anything. Like literally, they do not know anything.
I know.
So it's just interesting to me, the people that are still like, they're still obsessed with that. Do you have a title? Do you have the white coat? If you don't, then you couldn't possibly know or learn anything. And I'm like, baby, we're living in the best time ever. Anyone can become an expert on anything for free.
Yes.
You don't have to go to college. You can get everything you want to learn from YouTube and podcasts and books and everything. We are so past this era of like information being gatekept by the educational complex. You do not need to go to college to learn things. Anyone can learn.
Yeah, I heard a doctor say it perfectly. She said, I wasn't taught how to care for people. I was taught how to write prescriptions. I was taught medicine. Yeah. Right? They're taught how to write a prescription and what drug can be used. And it is a racket. And Americans need to wake up and see that that is the truth.
0 or maybe 1 day of nutritional training. I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing. No. And then ask them how much time in comparison they spent on pharma training. It's just nuts.
Yeah. And they're getting trained by pharma reps who have no anatomy, physiology background whatsoever. And that is who is training them.
Who is more at risk for skin cancer? People that are in the sun all the time or people that never are in the sun?
Well, I believe the research says that the ones that are not in the sun are at greater risk. Yeah. I mean, isn't it just ridiculous that they tell you the one of the leading causes of skin cancer is low vitamin D? Mm-hmm. Our ancestors lived under the sun for thousands of years without one drop of sunscreen. How did they make it? How did they survive? We just don't know.
Almost half of American kids are obese now. What is the first thing you would do as a parent if you had an obese child starting today?
I would feed them primally. I would take them out and teach them how to hunt and fish. I would teach them how to live off the land and get their food. And because one, they're getting exercise, they're getting fresh air, they're outside, they're learning how to be responsible for themselves. And then they can come home and process their own meat and eat it. And it gives them a confidence that they need. I would have them run in sprints for sure. And I would be removing all processed foods out of my house. Every single last one of them would go. I would have nothing in my fridge but meat, maybe some yogurts for little kids, seasonal berries, and eggs, and that'd be about it.
You're an open Trump supporter.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yeah.
So, but my question is, I don't see you doing a bunch of stuff with the MAHA movement. So do you want to be more involved in like the health policy and all of this that we're seeing kind of now with this administration? You're like, no, I'm good. Like I voted for Trump, but like that's as much as I want to be in on the political side.
I'm very open to making a difference for sure. I really want things to change for the next generation. It keeps me up at night worrying. I was telling my girls the other night, I'm terrified of AI right now. I'm terrified of the cell phone addiction. Like I'm on a path right now that is like, I can't shut up about it. I got to live, I don't know how old you are, Alex. I know 32. You're young. You're 32. Okay. I got to live before the internet. Yeah. I remember what it was like. It was so good. I want that for the kids now. I want it back for them. So do I think school lunches are a joke? Yes. I think that there could be a huge transformation with school lunches. My whole purpose when I do Primal Bod, when I do my discovery Zooms, when I talk to my members, I am adamant. You guys are my grassroots movement, but it starts in your family. You have to take care of you and your family and learn how to do it. And then you can go talk to other people.
So I'm assuming you're all in on like Jonathan Haidt and the Anxious Generation and all that.
I don't know about that.
What?
No. I keep myself in a nice little bubble, Alex.
You got to read or listen to the audiobook of Jonathan Haidt's #1 New York Times bestselling book, The Anxious Generation. It is literally exactly what you're talking about.
I think I've heard of it.
It's a plan.
Like recently.
Or listen to his Joe Rogan interview or something.
Yeah, okay. I think I did see something about it.
He is like started a massive movement of teaching families how to start this like cascade domino effect in their communities of being screen-free, phone-free families, at least till the very last possible minute with your kids, and like how to raise phone-free kids. It is so incredible getting schools to be phone-free, all of this stuff. He's doing a whole thing. This is a huge thing of his. So you would love that book.
I would.
Or listen to an interview with him. But yeah, there are some schools that are popping up in Miami. I know that the founder of Jasper Air purifying filters for your home, he's starting like the sickest elementary school in Austin.
Yeah.
That's like,
I love it.
The water's purified. All the food is organic and special. There's no like fluorescent lighting at all in this school. They're spending tons of time outside. He's got the air purifiers all over, obviously. I mean, he's got this whole thing, and screen-free, phone-free.
Love it.
So there's some cool people doing things, but I think that is a really important aspect of our health that, I mean, obviously I even struggle with that. I mean, all of us do.
We do. And it's got to stop. We have to, I mean, if we don't change things, we've got AI knocking on the door, and that's scary as to me. AI is really scary to me. So we have to make a change now. But I would love to be a part of anything MAHA. My top priority is servicing my girls and making sure they understand, because it does start one person at a time.
And the Primal Bod system, it's a 3-step thing.
So it's a 6-week course that they get access to for 12 weeks. And then we have a membership group that you can join and be a part of that. It is the fundamentals of insulin, blood sugar, ketosis. Basically, I teach you how to build muscle and burn fat at the same time.
And are they talking directly to you?
Yeah, me and my coaches.
Okay.
I work directly with my women and my coaches too. I have 4 other coaches who are board certified in holistic nutrition, except my sister, who's a personal trainer. And she's been formally trained by me. So they're legit. It's a highly organized system and program, and it's an education program. I want women coming ready to learn how their hormones work. I talk about sex drives. I talk about insulin, ketosis, like I said, all of these things, your glycogen stores. There's all these factors that are keeping you out of fat burning mode. And once you understand how they work, you know exactly how to live your life. You know exactly how to feed your family. You know exactly why you've been screwed up this whole time. I teach you about the history of food and how we got here, the selectively
Are you doing
breeding.
like meal planning, helping them know what to
No,
eat?
we don't do that because that So my philosophy is I'm not just going to give you a fish. I'm going to teach you to fish.
Okay.
So we have a fuel guide. It tells you what foods are primal. And then we have, a protein guide. We only track protein. We don't track anything else. Everything else we just eyeball. And then they track their ketones. And that's what they do. They have homework every week. Each week the homework changes. So they know what they're doing every week. It's not them writing essays. It's them living the lifestyle. But we do hot and cold therapy. We do the light environment. I teach about a lot of things. So this is a holistic health and wellness program that you can burn fat and get in a sexy bikini. I mean, it's just unreal. And my girls, they're bikini models now. It's incredible. And it's for all women. It doesn't matter if they've got 150 pounds to lose. It doesn't matter if they have 5 pounds to lose. It doesn't matter if they're stay-at-home moms with, 5 kids and they're homeschooling. I've had all those women in my program and they all succeed. They all do amazing. We have 775-star Google reviews that are just my members getting on. They can't believe it. They can't believe they finally found the holy grail of nutrition, diet, wellness. And these are girls that don't want to do Ozempic, or maybe they've done it and they're like, it destroyed me.
Yeah.
But these are girls that don't have Brazilian butt lifts. These are women who want to be kind to their body, that are tired of all the bullshit, but they're unhappy with the way they look and feel, and they know something is wrong.
And where can they find this?
primalbod.com. And then we follow me on Instagram at the primalbod. We're getting ready to release a book in about 5 to 6 months.
Oh, cool.
And we are getting ready to start our YouTube channel, which we're very excited about.
Exciting. I love that for you.
Yeah.
I ask every guest this: if you could offer one remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, what would it be?
I would say meat. Everybody needs to eat meat. That is the one thing that I'm adamant about. Praying, that's how I got to my conclusion, was through prayer. And I understand now what my mission is. And I know, because I prayed about it. God, I work for you. Please tell me what to do. I was going to get into real estate. I was going to get out of natural health and get into real estate. And I prayed about it. And I know that if everyone could just understand that their real food is meat, it's not what the food pyramid tells them, everything would align, because they'd start eating meat and they'd start wondering, how was this meat raised? They'd start wondering, who was the person that killed this animal? Because that is something very sacred. Mm-hmm. Every meal at our table is a gift. And so we need to be a part of that. And we need our kids to see that we're a part of it, and we need to make them a part of it so we can pass it on, because we are suffering, miserably diseased people now. And it's because we're eating the foods we've been eating for the past 100 years have destroyed our health. So what did they tell us for the past 100 years not to eat? Meat. Yeah. What has been absent in our life? Meat. So what do we need to get back to? We need to eat meat. My girls eat veggies as condiments. We eat ferments. We eat a little guacamole, I'll have a little salsa at times, but they're not our food. We are carnivores. We are. And I hate that term, but in a wild setting, we will hunt all day long. We are not going to go garden. We only do that if we are starving.
Candi Frazier, you never do podcast interviews, basically. You've done like a handful. So we were all like jumping up and down, so excited that you agreed to come on the show. I know my audience is going to be absolutely thrilled. So you guys got to pump her up in the comments and go follow her. Thank you so much for coming on Culture Apothecary.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Alex. It was an honor. I truly love what you're doing, and you're just such a gift to everyone.
Was so excited to get Candi. Like I said, she does not do podcast interviews hardly ever. So when we got the go-ahead that we could interview her, I was pumped. I spent hours watching the interviews that she has done, watching all of her reels. And so I hope those of you that are really big fans of her and that have been begging me to have her on the show were happy with how this went down and that I asked all the questions that you would want me to ask. If not, then I just might have to have her back. We'll see how this goes. Let us know in the comments and in your 5-star reviews. If you're new here, Culture Apothecary releases new episodes twice a week, every Monday and every Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, where I'm bringing on guests who have their own remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Culture Apothecary.